Welcome, everybody, to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. Carolyn is amazing. She's a doctor, she's a naturopath, she's an herbalist, she's an acupuncturist. She's going to tell you exactly what she would do if she were in your shoes. I can't think of a person who has devoted more time to helping people's health than Dr. Carolyn Dean. She can make a huge difference as you listen to her words of wisdom. We know she's ahead of time because she is the doctor of the future. Welcome, Dr. Carolyn Dean. Yay!
Welcome, Ginny.
Welcome, Caroline. How are you?
Just great. Okay. Update. Last week, I talked about how my left foot hurt when I took a step into the MAHA movement by going to the fundraiser panel discussion in Arizona. And after the show last week, when I got it off my chest, all the things that I didn't have a chance to say on the panel, so I just blurted it all out on the podcast last week. I woke up the next morning and my foot was pretty much 100%.
Wow.
So there. And just a few minutes ago, I got an email from a customer of ours who's also a podcaster, and she was talking about her illness and how she was great on vacation. Then she came back to her old home site and all her symptoms came back. And that's where we do look at the conflict basis of disease. What's the conflict that our mind just can't figure out? And it's a real dilemma. How do we decide? And then we put the symptoms in our physical body to try to fix the problem physically. It sounds, sounds counterproductive, but the body's trying its best to solve a problem, not necessarily give you grief or make your life miserable. So when you get a symptom or a disease or a diagnosis, you do have to look at the conflict. So I wanted to start with that.
Well, that's fantastic. And over the years, I know you've helped so many people. And I know the thing that you've said many times before is once you address the biological, meaning that people are fully saturated with magnesium, they have all their vitamins and nutrients, they're doing their movement, and they still have symptoms, you must go to the emotional conflict. And you've talked to so many people over the years. We used to do the live show where people could call in, and you've helped them pinpoint exactly what the problem has been and help them get relief. And I think it's a wonderful, magical thing that you can do that.
Right. And it's not like we give up on the physical. What we know about our formulas is that if you're taking them all and you're taking them right, you're taking them in high enough doses, the physical is taken care of. Your cells are just humming along. And if there's something left over, it's not psychiatric. It's not that you have to see a psychiatrist or take antipsychotic medication or antidepressants. You have to look at the conflict. It's really in that realm of a simple bubble. Of course, there can be people who are schizophrenics or psychotics, and that's unfortunate. And those people probably need medication. But we're talking about the folks that are attracted to our work, that there are layers of physical, but then there are layers of mental, emotional, and the fact that exercise can support our emotions and our physical. Just positive thoughts can open up receptor sites to make our dopamine and serotonin and our GABA work better. We are in charge as I've been saying over the weeks, we are in charge of our bliss. So
That, that's exactly correct. And also, we have a whole list of resources. So you'll see on the banner it says want to talk one-on-one, call the customer experience team. We have a whole list of resources that Dr. Dean has vetted over the year. Dr. John Sarno, his book is Healing Back Pain, but it's really about this emotional conflict that people parking the pain in their backs. We have Danny Carroll's work. We have Gabor Mate's work. So we've got a lot of work that we can send you to that you can reference and review for yourself and teach yourself about how to resolve your own conflicts. It's very simple. It's self-dialogue, really, isn't it, Carolyn?
it is self-dialogue, or even dialogue with a friend. You know, I'm talking to my sister a little more recently, and we get triggered. Oh, I had this experience. At the same time, oh, I had the opposite experience. It is amazing how filtered things.
That's so funny because the filter just messed up on our streaming.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Well, welcome everybody to Dr. Carolyn Dean. And as you can see, she's got a lot to say, and we didn't even do the introductions yet, but welcome to Dr. Carolyn Dean Live here. We're streaming on X, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, soon to be coming to Instagram. And every week we show up and we talk about Dr. Dean's very important work that she's been doing for over 50 years as an MD, fully credentialed, and a naturopath, fully experienced in the art and science of nature and all of its components, from Chinese medicine all the way through to nutrition and back to acupuncture. I mean, Carolyn covers the waterfront, and she's written so many different books, so many podcasts that you can see in our community notes on her website at drcarolyndean.com. And every week she also gives her medical opinion on current and relevant topics. So this week we're talking about her library, and we're talking about Magnesium, the Missing Link to Total Health, which is one of her books. And I think, what else are we going to talk about, Carolyn?
Well, we usually just dive into the blog of the week. There's a weekly blog at drcarolyndean.com. And this week it's a basic topic about calcium and magnesium. Now, this is how you understand magnesium and how it works, because the cells of the muscles and the nerves, they are activated by calcium. In a cell, the calcium gets through a calcium channel, but that channel is opened up by magnesium, or it's controlled by magnesium. Opening and closing lets the calcium in, pulls the calcium out. If you don't have enough magnesium, calcium can just sort of race into the cell and cause hyperexcitability, cause twitching, cause pain, cause tingling, numbness, all the symptoms that can get you misdiagnosed with MS. And it's due to not enough magnesium controlling the calcium as it goes in and out of cells. And I think, and a lot of magnesium experts are saying, we should have a 1-to-1 ratio of calcium and magnesium. But what's happened is we've gotten an RDA imposed upon us, because allopathic medicine thinks that the loss of bone as we get older means we need more calcium. But calcium isn't the only thing that makes bone. You need a lot of magnesium to help make the soft tissue structure. You need a lot of vitamin C to make the collagen for the soft tissue structure. And then the minerals deposit around the properly lattice work spaced soft tissue. And instead, we've got 1,200, 1,500 milligrams of calcium, whereas we should have probably 600 milligrams. And that's what the UK and the World Health Organization have advised, 600 milligrams. You can usually get that in your diet if you're eating dairy and green leafy vegetables, fish with bones, nuts and seeds. But maybe you're not getting that. Maybe you're on a carnivore diet and maybe you need a calcium. And we do have a picometer size stabilized ion of calcium that we use, but only up to 600 milligrams. And what I'd also say, and I say a lot about muscles and nerves, is we have 600 muscles in the body. Each one of them, it's necessary to have magnesium to relax, as it is to have a balance of calcium to activate. And with our nervous system, we have 45 miles of nerves. So with this blog, I'm just going over how we got into overcalcifying, especially with women. There have been many studies showing that women who are just taking calcium supplements for no other reason than their doctor said, oh, you got to take it for your bones, they're developing heart disease, gallstones, kidney stones, heel spurs, fibromyalgia, and calcification in breast tissue, which is called DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. So it's mainly calcification of breast tissue. It's said to be precancerous, but somehow they started to put it into the cancer statistics. And then on a mammogram, they'll squish the tissue and show this calcification and say, oh, this could be bad. They'll do a biopsy, take it out, and then they'll say they cured a cancer. So that's another disingenuous aspect of cancer research. Because there are no drugs to dissolve calcium in coronary arteries or in carotid arteries, coronary arteries, allopathic medicine continues to use stents, calcium channel blockers. You get that message? A calcium channel blocker, that's magnesium. Magnesium helps dissolve calcium that has been deposited in soft tissues. Nothing else does that. And they're also using statin drugs instead of supplementing their patients with risk-free magnesium. And then I didn't have this in the blog, but the latest controversy about calcium involves the calcium coronary artery scan. I began talking about this a decade ago, that it really wasn't going anywhere, but they've been pushing the test for about 20 years. But when they find calcium in the coronary arteries, they don't know how to treat it. Like I said, there's no anti-calcium drug. All they have is statins. And it turns out that I think it's fairly recent research shows that statins increase coronary artery calcification. So instead of using sufficient magnesium to solubilize calcium directed to the bones, they say, well, you just take statins, and yeah, so what if it increases the calcium in the arteries? That's okay because your blood cholesterol levels are down. You see, yeah. So it's another part of the clown show where they just want to use statins. They want to keep cholesterol as the bad guy, and they're really pushing the coronary artery scans. People come up to me at the farmers market and talk about how their doctors find calcium in the coronary arteries and right away suggest surgery. So go to drcarolyndean.com, see the article, send it out to people if you like, and wait for next week. And on that list, there'll be a link to the podcast, whatever interviews I've been doing. So it's a good way to follow the information. So back to you, Ginny.
Thank you. Now, I wanted to just ask, if I had calcium in my coronary arteries, am I going to be able to use like a vitamin C product for the arteries and then a lysine proline kind of combination to dissolve some of that calcium patching, or no?
Oh, yeah. So the calcium that builds up usually builds up on cholesterol, and we've talked about that a lot.
Okay.
where the arteries, if they have enough vitamin C promoted collagen. So you need vitamin C to make collagen to make your arteries nice and healthy and supple. If you don't have that, then those arteries get a little weak. They get little nicks and tears in them. They really do, especially at what we call the bifurcation, where this big artery becomes two smaller arteries. There can be a little nick there. Well, the body's going to heal that up with a cholesterol patch.
Mm.
And that cholesterol patch, it's trying to do the right thing. But if you have an excess of calcium in your bloodstream because you don't have enough magnesium to balance it out, the calcium is going to deposit in the cholesterol.
Mm.
So when they do these X-rays, CT scans, which is you're getting radiation by constantly having these CT scans, and they pick up the calcium, they're not seeing the cholesterol because it doesn't show up on X-ray. It's soft gummy material. So the cholesterol is definitely there. So if you're healing your arteries with enough vitamin C, if with the lysine and proline, you're beating back your lipoprotein A and your LDL, then you're getting rid of the cholesterol. Magnesium, you're getting rid of the calcium. So yes, we see really good results in people who, especially with carotid artery scans, they'll tell us just after a certain amount of our magnesium, the calcification is less in the carotid arteries. So it's very hopeful. And I have great concern now because research is showing that because of a certain jab that a lot of people took over the past few years, our hearts are at risk. And because I have a history of heart palpitations, not atrial fibrillation, but heart palpitations, I want to keep my heart healthy. So I'm taking about 10 grams of vitamin C a day and some extra lysine and proline. And we are making a product for people because when I see a need, I want to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely. Find a need and fill it. That's what P.T. Barnum said years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have a couple questions if we can ask them now. And also, we will take questions all throughout the show. And just not medical questions, but other questions you can dovetail in and out. So here's a question. And the question is, I have a friend who's having trouble with high blood pressure. I've talked to him about diet and exercise, but what is the biology, the conflict of the emotions when it comes to high blood pressure?
Well, I think you said a he, but if it's a he, sometimes it's something about a person not being able to control something outside his home. Business, for example, you can't control your boss. You can barely control your employees. You can't control the driving. You can't control anything in this world. And some people, that causes tension and leads to blood pressure. But that would be in an environment where someone already has a magnesium deficiency. And with magnesium, you are going to be working on your anxiety, your irritability, your sleep, your fatigue. And when all those things are balanced, then you feel happy and you say, okay, who cares what my boss is doing? I'm a happy guy. I don't think he is, that sort of thing. You use your bliss emotions to just overcome those external factors that are trying to put pressure on you.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah, excellent. I remember in 2017 with our first FDA incident, you said, Ginny, take more Remag. And I did, and it does help you feel better. All right. Now, again, we're taking questions throughout the show, so you can type them right in here on the chat line. I thought I saw another one, but if I missed it, we'll come back. Nebulize always when you have the flu. Oh, where's Super Dougie? I did see something. Where did it go? How on earth? That's very good. How on earth can you take 10 grams of vitamin C without loose stools? That's from Super Dougie.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I went from just I think it was 2 grams of our vitamin C berry powder and just added the other 8 grams. And I was quite amazed. But I think what it is, I put about a good third or even a half of my 12 ounces of all my minerals, including my magnesium. I put it in my psyllium seed powder. So I'm drinking psyllium seed to slow down the absorption, and perhaps that helps keep it from being laxative. But what we're going to be counseling people when we put out this product is just to start slowly.
No.
If you start slowly, then the body starts utilizing the vitamin C. You're making more collagen. You're helping your skin. You're helping your ligaments. You're helping your joints. Everything is going to be upgraded, and your body will get used to using it. If all of a sudden you take 10 grams, you might get the laxative effect. So that's what we'll do, Super Dougie, is just slowly add it in. One extra gram every day or two until you get up to the 8 or 10 grams.
Very good. Outstanding. All right, let's press on. What else shall we talk about this evening?
Is MAHA next?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So every week we talk about what MAHA is accomplishing. So I think this is part of MAHA. President Trump signed executive order to take the homeless off the streets. Now, people don't realize what caused the homeless epidemic, and I'm going to tell you. In the 1950s, when psychiatric hospitals began to close down after the introduction of chlorpromazine, an antipsychotic, it was the first effective one. They decided that, hey, chlorpromazine is treating our schizophrenics. We can put people on medication, put them out into the community, group homes or whatever. We'll have social workers take care of them. And they began to shut down the psychiatric facilities. I mean, I was learning this in the 70s and 80s when I was in practice up in Toronto, because we were starting to see some homeless at that time. And so the decline in psychiatric facilities accelerated in 1961 due to changes in U.S. federal policy that wanted to integrate mental health patients into the community with the help of these antipsychotics, but the community was not prepared. So this is why we have people on the streets. Many of them, they do say, are in very bad mental health, and they really do need to be supervised in an institutional setting. So hopefully that's what's going to occur. Another MAHA agenda is Bobby Kennedy getting us out of the World Health Organization international health regulations, which is really hard. They are hard trying to legally bind 196 countries to accept their guidance and their guidance alone when they declare the next pandemic. That was a big and bold move for Bobby Kennedy, and really important. And it was right on the wire of him getting out of that legal binding. It was like, okay, it's legally binding for everyone unless you say no. So he got in there and said no right at the last minute. But we're still stuck in the Codex Alimentarius booby traps where they're regulating dietary supplements and the amount of toxicity that they're allowed to keep in food. So look up Codex Alimentarius and you see the US has a Codex Alimentarius, whatever form or office or whatever crazy thing it is. 3, Coca-Cola is pulling corn syrup, which is genetically engineered, high fructose corn syrup out of their cola and replacing it with cane sugar, which is still going to be 10 teaspoons of sugar. And sugar is really our downfall. Obesity, heart disease, Alzheimer's, all of it. And 4, dyes are being pulled from dairy products. And then they have, I mean, I don't know if Fruit Loops is signed on yet, but I was kind of frustrated about these small steps with removing food coloring, even though the food industry thinks they're monumental steps. I'm concerned about saving organic farming because of my farm here in Maui. But there is now some talk by Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rawlings about supporting small farms, and then again by Bobby Kennedy, who supports organic farming. See, our main problem on our farm here, we're farming 46 acres, is the expense of the regulations that are forced on us as if we were 100,000 acres and doing monocrops. We grow up to 80 different fruits, vegetables, and herbs and berries. Well, that's fruits. So basically, our farm is trying to make Maui more sustainable because 80 to 90% of all our food and all our goods are shipped into Hawaii by barge from the West Coast. When shipping fails, Maui will starve. And that's where my foundation comes in, parageniusfoundation.org, to support the farm. And I'm personally the banker for the farm. Keep it going. So that's MAHA. Lots happening, Jenny. What do you think?
I think it's all incredibly exciting for 7 months. Things that they said couldn't be done are being done, which means bigger things are available as the success and the momentum builds. And as we know, in energy, it's all about momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So getting that ball rolling, keeping the ball rolling, getting the ball bigger, and then letting the people get swept up with the ball. So I think we're on the right track, and we certainly are well improved to where we were 8 months ago. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's very positive.
Yeah.
Very positive. So are there any questions before I go to our questions and answer segment?
We do have a question from Robin, and basically what she's saying is, while we are discussing heart health, I'd love to hear Dr. Dean's thoughts on daily intake of saturated fats. They seem to have an unwarranted bad reputation.
Definitely unwarranted. And that's around the sugar industry as well, Robin. I went through that and I think I might have talked about this last week in the 1990 when I was on a national TV show in Canada talking about sugar. I poured out 10 teaspoons of sugar in a can of Coke, 20 teaspoons in a milkshake. The sugar lobby group in Canada just came after me. And it was around the time where they were trying to squash or quash any notion that sugar related to heart disease. Now, sugar relates to heart disease because it competes with vitamin C. Remember, vitamin C makes collagen, which makes all the fabric of the heart, for Pete's sakes. Vitamin C and glucose, sugar, compete for transportation on insulin. When
Mhm.
you have a ton of glucose, 10 teaspoons of sugar, whereas our bloodstream only has 1 to 2 teaspoons at any one time, those 10 teaspoons load into cells as much as they can. Vitamin C can't get in there, and then the sugar causes damage, and crystallization turns into sorbitol. A lot of complexity. But the sugar people, they wouldn't have that. They started blaming saturated fats. Uh,
Hmm.
they grabbed a study that someone did on laboratory grade cholesterol that I think they fed to a bunch of poor rabbits, and the cholesterol was rancid. They fed it to the rabbits and they said, "Oh, look, it built up in the rabbits' arteries, when they sacrificed the rabbits." And they said cholesterol is bad. So they called it a saturated fat, and that began the whole. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we instead of having wonderful butter, we had this white lardy type of margarine, and we would put a red dye. We would mix a red dye into this lard to make it look like butter. So they created these trans fats that we ate, and it gave us more problems than butter ever would. So saturated means that there's no random free radical type of electrons uh, floating about, or places where you can add atoms or molecules. I know, again, too much complexity. Saturated means it's solid and stable and healthy. Coconut oil, palm oil, animal lard, those are saturated fats that now we are hearing are healthy, whereas the vegetable oils that then we were told that they're safer and healthier, the omega-6 vegetable oils, pro-inflammatory. And you see it in every snack is going to be a vegetable oil, and that's going to cause problems because when you with saturated fats like then you go to fish oils and fish fats, omega-3s. You want the omega-3s to make your cell membranes. If you're making your cell membranes with omega-6s, they are weak and you'll get leaky cell membranes. So, where was I, Ginny? Daily intake of saturated fats is very healthy.
Yeah, you were doing a beautiful job as usual. Thank you. Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Robin. I think you got your answer. We can press on, Carolyn.
Okay, now this question and answer segment, it's a bit of a departure because one of our customers, Mr. Singh, asked if I would cover some particular topics. And the first one is to discuss the connection between oxidative stress and glycation in relation to diabetes and motility challenges. So, yeah, we're having a complex session today, it looks like. So, let's look at oxidative stress and then glycation. They're both prominent in diabetes, for example, and diabetes is rampant. Oxidative stress occurs when there's an excess of free radicals. These are unstable molecules with an unpaired electron that can damage cells when there are insufficient antioxidants. So we get the idea that oxidation is bad. However, oxidation is a chemical reaction that's necessary that occurs when an atom or molecule loses one or more electrons, and it's an essential chemical and biological process. So it's not bad, but these electrons are created and they're called unstable, and they have to be neutralized or reduced by antioxidants to achieve balance in the body. So that's all it is. The body does an oxidation, it creates a reaction, flies off some electrons, and antioxidants come along and grab the electrons. Balance, balance. But then if there aren't enough antioxidants, you get the problem. So what's happened in our world is we're at a loss for nutrients. 200 years, with it, I think it's 100 years ago, we could get 500 milligrams of magnesium in our daily diet. Now we're lucky to get 200 milligrams. And the same for every other vitamin and mineral. We're getting less and less. And then when you look at what research on the internet, and you say, what are antioxidants? They say vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and selenium. So they're highlighted. But then magnesium is an antioxidant because it's active as a cofactor for several important antioxidant enzymes like glutathione and superoxide dismutase. And then you look at the methylators that occur in certain B vitamins. And we learn that methylation plays a crucial role in the production of key internal antioxidants, glutathione and coenzyme Q10. Then I plugged in all the minerals in our multiple mineral formula and asked if they were antioxidants: boron, chromium, copper, iodine, magnesium, manganese, molybdenum, potassium, selenium, and zinc. All have antioxidant properties. Only calcium and sodium were not listed as antioxidants. So all good nutrients are antioxidants. People who are taking our formulas, or B vitamins in our B food-based methylated combination. I really want to say the name of our products. Does the FDA still not want me to say the name of our products, Ginny?
You can talk about your products, and as long as you don't align them with the disease state.
Oh, okay. So Realign has 4 methylated Bs and 4 food-based Bs and 2 amino acids that turn into glutathione and superoxide dismutase, and they're sulfur-based, so they enhance the sulfation pathway. So what we're looking at in our world is that we're not eating the foods that have the nutrients anymore that our body was made to receive. So the reason for our company is to give you those nutrients that are going to be the antioxidants that you naturally should be getting in your food, but you're not. And then the glycation business, people may know it, but it's the attachment of a sugar to a protein, lipid, or nucleic acid molecule that goes to make DNA and RNA. So glycation is the abnormal attachment. When you have that excess sugar, that 10 teaspoons of sugar in a soda, if that sugar doesn't go into the cells or isn't excreted in the urine, for example, then it's going to start binding to whatever it comes up against. And that creates free radicals with unpaired electrons. And they say this glycation, of course, it's responsible for micro and macrovascular complications in diabetes, many other diseases, and in aging. The diseases would be cardiovascular, because the endothelium, fibrinogen, and collagen are damaged. And in Alzheimer's, there's a buildup of these glycation products in the brain. Long-lived cells, such as nerves and different types of brain cells, long-lasting proteins, such as the lens and cornea in the eye, and DNA can sustain substantial glycation over time. Glycation of sugar occurs mainly in the bloodstream to a small proportion of the absorbed simple sugars, glucose and fructose. It appears that fructose has approximately 10 times the glycation activity of glucose. The primary body fuel is glucose. So the invention of high fructose corn syrup was a huge disservice to humanity. And you know glycation when you get a hemoglobin A1C test. That test helps to diagnose diabetes and prediabetes because sugar is attaching to red blood cell molecules over time. So in summary, damage by glycation results in stiffening of the collagen in the blood vessel walls. So there's our collagen again, leading to high blood pressure, especially in diabetes. Glycations also cause weakening of the collagen in the blood vessel walls, which may lead to micro or macro aneurysms. And this may cause strokes if in the brain. It can also be the beginning of atherosclerosis, hastened by vitamin C deficiency. This is where I bring the fact that sugar and vitamin C compete for transport into cells on insulin. So I've done that. And the DNA is glycated as well, which is kind of scary. Glycation of DNA can cause mutation, breaks in DNA, and cytotoxicity. How do you prevent this? You cut out added sugars, and you try not to eat so much in the way of fruits. Vitamin C is the antidote. If you have a dessert, take extra vitamin C. If you're taking 10 grams a day, I think you're probably covered. And then a diet rich in antioxidants and dietary supplements. Regular exercise also helps to promote healthy circulation and nutrient delivery. And all this is totally ignored by allopathic medicine because it doesn't recognize nutrients. So they scare people about glycation, but don't talk about the nutrients that can help to heal the damage as well as prevent the damage. But it is mainly by cutting back on sugar intake. And I think I'll stop there, Ginny. That was a lot. And I want to see if you have any input, or if there's any input on the chat.
Well, everybody does love the science details. So thank you for spinning all that out. And I do think it's important because all roads do lead back to antioxidants and all the things that we talk about all the time. And if you've been doing our products for 10 or 15 years, like some of our regular listeners have been doing, the chances of these being areas of concern for you are probably not that high. Would you agree, Carolyn?
Oh, absolutely. Because our formulas are all food-based, organic, picometer minerals, all the wonderful things that aid absorption. And my whole thesis is that most of the disease that people are suffering is because they don't get enough magnesium. That's what this book is all about. I've got a list of 67 diseases that are caused by magnesium deficiency that are totally being ignored and treated with drugs. And what happens when people don't get their magnesium, because all magnesium compounds on the market are laxative, so you can never take enough to take care of the body. I'm always telling the story that I get the laxative effect with more than 50 milligrams of a magnesium compound, 50 milligrams. But when I finally found a chemist to make a non-laxative magnesium, the picometer size stabilized ion of magnesium, it stays as an ion, stays stabilized. You drink it. We've done university studies to show that when they do a special blood test called the ionized magnesium test, which should be available to everybody, that it's still ionized in the body. It doesn't have to wait for the dissociation of a compound and then potentially some pickup, which means most minerals are only like 4 to maybe 20% absorbed. So if you don't get enough magnesium, you're not saturating. I had to take 1,200 milligrams of my non-laxative magnesium with no laxative effect for over a year to get rid of my palpitations for good. And like I'm always saying, each year I'll add a year, but I feel better now at 76 than I did when I was in my 30s, because I was all tightened up with magnesium deficiency, although I still was very active. So what are we looking at? We're looking at acid reflux, adrenal fatigue, Alzheimer's, angina, anxiety, arthritis, asthma, atherosclerosis, atrial fibrillation, blood clots, bowel disease, calcification, cholesterol, chronic fatigue, dementia, depression, diabetes, fatigue. I mean, there's 68 reasons here for you to be taking enough magnesium to make a difference. And most of the time in our customer experience team, they find that people just aren't taking enough. And about the antioxidants, if you're not taking our formulas, which are food-based, organic, etc., then you're not getting antioxidants from just natural vitamins and minerals that are the building blocks for the body. Then you're going off and say, oh, well, I'll have to take, L-carnitine and alpha-lipoic and all these Ayurvedic herbs and all the marketing for all these antioxidants, or I have to get intravenous glutathione or liposomal glutathione, all these expensive things that they've morphed into saying that you need these antioxidants because you're not taking a good form of magnesium to make a difference to 80% of known metabolic functions. So there, back to you, Ginny.
That definitely sums it up for sure. Thank you, Carolyn. And also, another good question, because you're talking a lot about vitamin C tonight, and Michelle is asking you, I'm sensitive to barley. Can you share why you use it in the vitamin C in some of your other products? Is it, if it's that good, should I just suffer and take it anyway?
Well, barley, I don't know if it's a gluten thing with you and barley, but the barley we use is it's the seeds, the germinated seeds of barley. So it's not barley made into a food. It's a germination process. And we use those barley germinated grains in water in a great big huge drum. Ginny, I keep meaning to ask, what is the size of that drum that we have several of them that we rotate with the seeds and a couple of other things?
Right. It's 8. The barrel itself is, I think, 8 or 10 feet in diameter. So
Well,
it's very huge. It's huge.
yeah, it's bigger than me.
Wow.
So we have.
You could stand up in it probably, right, Carolyn? I think you could.
That's right. So what we do with these barley seeds, it was a formula that I got from an old gentleman that I met in my teens out in LA, and he was making barley seeds into a water purifier. Anyway, it's too detailed to go into. So what I did when I finally had the resources, etc., to make this recipe, it turned into this monumental task to get a liquid out of these seeds that we do sell as RNA drops. And what I did for the experiment with the RNA drops is over here at the farm, Houston from the warehouse came over to spend time and do an experiment where we used the straw, the remains, like the throwaway product from this RNA drops concoction. We used the straw as a fertilizer for radishes. One plot had the barley straw and the other plot nothing at all. They were watered the same way. And after 25 days, the plot with the barley straw gave us 82 pounds of beautiful bright red radishes. And the plot without the straw, with no amendments, nothing, it produced 3 pounds of radishes that we could safely use at the market. So it is a life enhancer. I said, okay, it enhanced the life of the radishes, made them what would you say? The prime directive of predators is to look for weakened organisms to prey on and attack. These radishes were healthy. They had life force. They were resistant to predators. Whereas the non-barley straw radishes, they just went after it. There were worms all over them, a lot of weeds. So the RNA drops were doing amazing things with people, which I can't talk about because the FDA won't let me. And we take some of those RNA drops and dehydrate them and put them in our formulas to give that life enhancement. Now, what happened with our restructure protein powder, at one point we had, barley extract, and we had lab tests showing it had no gluten and all the rest of it. But some gung-ho attack dog saw the word barley on our packaging and called us out to the FDA, and they were happy to have us recall the product because of the label.
Let's clarify for Michelle that the white powder, which is an extract of the RNA drops, does not contain gluten. Okay. But the barley source is the deal breaker. So we have to say that barley's in it as an allergen because so many people are sensitive to gluten. But when the FDA came and took the restructure out of the warehouse and had it tested, it had no gluten in it. So what you want to do is test the formula yourself. And unless you go into like apoplectic seizures or something over barley, and you could even test it by wetting it and putting it on your skin and see if your skin reacts to it, you don't have to ingest it. But Michelle, call Sarah Ellis in customer service tomorrow and tell her that you want to try the vitamin C reset powder. And for you, we will send you a complimentary canister and try it. And just start off with a little smidge and see how you do. Because one of our wonderful and precious people that worked for us for the longest, Jackie, was profoundly celiac disease and could take all the formulas. So you have to make your own peace with it. And we can't make any claims about it because the source is barley. But when the products are tested, they're gluten-free, but we can't claim it because of barley.
Okay. Anything else before? There's another question I want to address. I think it's still Dr. Singh's. He wants me to discuss the role of healthy cell replication in overall metabolic and vascular health. And I've said this over and over. The best way to talk about healthy cell replication is to emphasize the need for a healthy diet without sugar, added sugars, without the omega-6 fatty acids, and with our dietary supplements. That's all. That's what you need to create healthy cells. And then someone else had a question. This came in last week. We never got to it. The question reads, regarding whole C reset, which is what we're talking about, is it a problem for people with kidney and liver issues to take it? I have read that it can build up in there for someone that has sensitive skin and slow wound healing. Is there an alternative? Now, vitamin C is water soluble. It's not going to build up. And I don't know where I'm saying now, I don't know where this idea of vitamin C or ascorbic acid being dangerous came from, but I think it's clickbait to make an extreme statement like this to get views or clicks. Apparently, it's about vitamin C affecting the absorption of copper. And here's what I found online. The interaction between vitamin C and copper absorption is complex and not fully understood. While some studies suggest that high doses of vitamin C can potentially lower copper levels, the effect is modest. So this is where someone can cherry pick a little study and draw a false conclusion. And the specific activity of the protein that's involved in copper metabolism, it's called ceruloplasmin. They say it may be sensitive to vitamin C supplementation and indicating a potential impact on copper status. So it's a maybe and a potential. And then there are other studies showing that vitamin C does not significantly affect commonly measured indices of copper metabolism. Then, I mean, you have to take into account that most studies are suspect anyway. We know that from doing our own university studies. Right, Ginny? You have a research director that is supposed to oversee the study. They get the funding to do the study. They hand it off to a PhD researcher who hands it off to a student who doesn't know anything about the subject, doesn't know what they're doing, never talks to us, and just sort of, bounces along doing their scientific stuff, pretending that they know what they're doing. It's outrageous.
Yeah. What about the one time, Carolyn, where there were like 15 students named on the research study just because they crunched some numbers, right?
Yeah.
And it's like here's this huge, and the thing of it is it's so important for them to have their names published on a paper because their thesis or whatever. But in the meantime, it's like, really, we're trying to prove a point, not your point. We're trying to prove our point, I don't know. It was just so crazy. Academia is off the charts.
Yeah, our Purdue study was the best, but then over the so-called pandemic, something got really screwed up with some other studies we were looking at. We were even told, well, we had this machine, so we decided to do this instead of your VO2 max that you wanted to do. So it really turned us off. Personally, turned us off research. So just to finish up ascorbic acid, there's enough doctors in the world who've given extremely high dose vitamin C infusions to probably 1 million people, more than 1 million people over the decades, with no reports of copper deficiency. And of course, in our formulas, we use bioavailable copper in Remite and Pico Zinc Plus because we know the value of bioavailable copper. So there.
So there. Okay. Carolyn, we have 3 minutes left.
Oh, no.
And we have questions. And I just want to give a love shout out to Margaret Lee. She's with us tonight. Hello, Margaret. And I wanted to also just ask this final question because I know this is one of your passions. And then if we didn't get to your question, we want you to check in with customer service, okay, one-on-one, and let the customer experience team guide you. But Wine Flirt, which I love that name, wants to know, can I alternate drinking magnesium water, in other words, water in my Remag, and coffee? I understand caffeine impedes the absorption of magnesium. Is that correct?
Well, not with our magnesium. Remag just goes straight into the cells. It's not going to be impeded by anything. It's starting to be absorbed in your mouth and down your throat. So it is not affected by coffee. And I don't even know about other magnesiums. I've never heard that. Could be more clickbait. But you know what I would say, I guess, because I'm not a coffee drinker, never have been. But if you're taking your magnesium and enough of it, you don't need coffee for energy. But if you're drinking coffee just because you like the taste, that's different.
Right. Okay. Very good. Well, with 2 minutes to go, we're going to have to wrap it up. Do you have additional thoughts, Carolyn, you want to share this evening?
Well, I have to get this topic in, Ginny.
Okay.
Under pros and cons of supplements and drugs and studies, we're extending that title, I think. So there was a recent menopause panel headed by FDA Director Marty McCary on removing the black box warning on the use of estradiol hormone replacement therapy. and this was a real concern to me. He had a huge panel of allopathic pro-drug doctors bemoaning the fact that these poor women are being mistreated because they're not allowed to take synthetic hormone replacement therapy. And there were no naturopaths or alternative medicine doctors to talk about how good magnesium can be to eliminate most menopause symptoms, or that a good picometer multiple mineral will support thyroid function and support estrogen balance, that bioidentical estrogen using the 3 estrogens, estradiol, estriol, and estrol, should be used as a vaginal cream for menopause symptoms. None of this was discussed. It's very unfortunate. Instead, they want to go back to do, it's like an ongoing experiment. They subject women to synthetic estradiol, which current research shows it can activate a breast cancer gene. So it can do that, but it can also activate antioxidant activity. So each side can cherry pick the research to prove their point, and the patient is forced into a game of Russian roulette. Because how do you know what this estradiol, they chose that way back in the day because it's the most aggressive active form of estrogen. But when you do bioidentical, which is what I do a bioidentical estrogen cream of estrol, estradiol, estriol, and some progesterone. And that's all I need. I don't have to be taking by mouth hormones that are synthetic that can potentially be triggering, the upside or the downside of estrogen. So there, I rest my case.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Any follow-up questions for that? You've got to send them in to questions, questions, at drcarolyndean.com. I know there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace about hormone replacement therapy and things. So again, if you have follow-up questions, you've got to use our questions at drcarolyndean.com. You see it on the banner here. We want to remind everybody that Dr. Dean's content is at drcarolyndean.com. And August 11th, we will be announcing her newest book, which is Exposing Sugar Toxicity, a Clinical Perspective. For those of us who are science junkies on this channel, you will definitely want to be here for that. You can find all Dr. Dean's formulas at rnareset.com. And again, feel free to experiment with and find your way. Customer service always there to help you. And then also picopets.com. Very important to treat your pets well. And Carolyn, Greg Trahan sent me a package of electrolytes for chickens. Chickens need electrolytes. And he said, Pico Mite is better than these electrolytes. And he said, you need to have chicken mite. And I said, yes, we will have chicken mite.
Oh, nice.
And so we've got chickens, a gal with the chickens down the street. So I'm going to give her some Pico Mite and see what happens to the eggs.
Well, we have chickens on the farm. I'll have to get onto that.
Okay. Well, listen, we love all of you. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll be back next week. And yeah, I sent you some Pico Mite. Take it over to the chickens.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
You have been listening to Dr. Carolyn Dean, the doctor of the future. Become a member of drcarolyndean.com and get access to all her leading edge of creation information, as well as archives, webinars, and other valuable media resources. Join Dr. Dean and Ginny Almighty same time again next week.